First contact deception, Doctor. Elena Reyes jolted awake as her monitoring system blared with an alert. The clock read 3:17 a.m. She'd fallen asleep at her desk again, surrounded by spectral analyses and translation algorithms. Rubbing her eyes, she focused on the incoming data stream illuminating her otherwise dark office at the Deep Space Communication Array. "This can't be right," she whispered, fingers dancing across the keyboard as she refined the signal. But with each adjustment, the pattern became clearer. A deliberate, structured message from the direction of Cygnus, approximately 48 light-years from Earth. Elena's heart raced as she initiated the verification protocols. After 15 years as the array's lead xenolinguist, she'd analyzed countless signals: stellar noise, quasar emissions, even the occasional human satellite feedback. But this was different. This was intelligent. She reached for the secure line, hesitating only briefly before making the call that would change humanity's future. "Director Harlow? It's Reyes. I need you at the array immediately. I think we've made contact." Within hours, the facility buzzed with activity. Scientists crowded around monitors, government officials spoke in hushed tones, and military personnel established a perimeter. Elena stood at the center of the storm, explaining her findings to Director Harlow and a stone-faced military attaché. "The signal contains mathematical sequences that couldn't occur naturally. Prime numbers, the value of pi basic atomic structures," she explained, pointing to the scrolling data. "It's deliberate communication, sir." First contact. Director Harlow removed his glasses, eyes wide with wonder. After all this time searching the stars, they found us first. He turned to the military officer. "General, how do we proceed?" "Carefully," the man replied. "Very carefully." As the room erupted in excited discussions about humanity's place in the cosmos, Elena returned to her analysis. Something about the signal structure bothered her. Subtle anomalies in the pattern that didn't align with the mathematical elegance of the rest. It was like finding a single wrong note in a symphony, imperceptible to most but jarring to a trained ear. "You see it too, don't you?" Elena turned to find Commander Jackson Mercer leaning against the doorframe of her office. His dark eyes assessed her with unsettling precision. As head of security for the array, Mercer had a reputation for paranoia that matched his impressive military record, at least until the incident that had him reassigned to what many considered a babysitting job at a scientific outpost. "See what?" she asked, immediately defensive. "The inconsistencies." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Everyone's so excited about making friends with aliens that nobody's asking why an advanced civilization would send a message with embedded contradictions." Elena studied him, surprised. "I wouldn't call them contradictions. They're more like deliberate errors, or tests to see if we're paying attention." He approached her desk, examining her notes. "Military intelligence uses similar tactics. Include small errors in your communications to see if they're being intercepted and analyzed correctly." "These aren't military communications," Elena protested. We don't know what they are," Mercer interrupted. "That's my point." Elena sighed, frustrated but unable to dismiss his concerns entirely. "What do you suggest, Commander? That we ignore the first proof of intelligent life beyond Earth because the syntax seems off?" "I suggest caution, Doctor." His voice softened slightly. "And I suggest you watch your back. Not everyone here is as interested in scientific truth as you are." Before she could respond, her system alerted her to a new transmission, this one originating from Earth, specifically from somewhere within the array facility itself, directed toward the same coordinates in Cygnus. "What the hell?" Elena muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Someone's sending a response without authorization." The data stream flashed across her screen too quickly to read, but she caught fragments: military capacity assessments, defense system specifications, geological surveys of critical resources. When she looked up, Mercer's expression had darkened. "Like I said, Doctor, watch your back." Over the next week, as the world celebrated humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, Elena worked tirelessly to document the anomalies in both the incoming signals and the unauthorized outgoing transmissions. She compiled her findings into a comprehensive report, requesting an urgent meeting with the International Space Coalition's leadership. "This doesn't make sense," Director Harlow said, sliding her report across the table without having read past the first page. "Why would an advanced civilization need our military specifications?" Precisely my concern, sir. Elena fought to keep frustration from her voice. Combined with the deliberate errors in their communications, it suggests you're overworked, Dr. Reyes. The ISC chairman interrupted, his smile not reaching his eyes. Your contributions have been invaluable, but perhaps you need some rest. We're reassigning you to the Historical Archives Division until further notice. You're sidelining me? Now? Elena stood indignant. Sir, something is wrong with this entire first contact scenario and nobody seems to care. That's enough, Doctor. The chairman's voice hardened. Security will escort you to clear out your office. Your credentials are suspended effective immediately. That evening, Elena sat in her apartment surrounded by boxes of personal effects from her office, a glass of wine untouched beside her. The television droned on about the historic contact, experts speculating about what technological wonders the Cygnus civilization might share with humanity. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Through the peephole she saw Commander Mercer, his military posture unmistakable even in civilian clothes. What do you want? She asked through the door. To show you something you need to see, he replied quietly. Something about the Cygnus signals. You were right. Elena hesitated, then unlocked the door. Mercer entered quickly, checking the hallway before closing it behind him. He placed a secure tablet on her coffee table, activating it with encrypted credentials. 3 years ago, a civilization called the Rendu in the Tau Ceti system received similar signals, he explained as images appeared on the screen. 6 months later, their entire technological infrastructure failed simultaneously. When we sent probes to investigate, we found a dead world. Stripped of resources, population disappeared. Why isn't this public knowledge? Elena asked, horror creeping through her. Because it's happened twice more since then. Different system, same pattern. Mercer's eyes met hers. First, friendly contact. Then subtle harvesting of military and resource information. Finally, complete subjugation or extinction. And you think the Cygnus signals are the beginning of the same pattern? He nodded grimly. There's a small group of us monitoring this situation across different agencies. We need someone who truly understands these communications. He extended his hand. Will you help us, Dr. Reyes? Elena looked from the devastating images on the tablet to Mercer's outstretched hand, making a decision that would alter the course of human history. When do we start? She asked, taking his hand. We already have. His grip was firm, steady, and time is running out. The veil lifts 6 months after the initial Cygnus transmission. The skies above Earth's major cities darkened with the arrival of massive crystalline ships. Their hulls shimmered like liquid metal in the sunlight, elegant curves defying Earth's architectural traditions. The world watched in collective awe as smaller vessels descended, landing on designated sites in neutral territories. In a hastily converted military bunker beneath the New Geneva International Cooperation Center, Elena studied footage of the Cygnus representatives emerging from their craft. Tall, graceful beings with features similar enough to humans to be relatable, yet alien enough to seem exotic. Their smooth skin held an iridescent quality, and their movements flowed with uncanny precision. They certainly know how to make an entrance, Jackson remarked, standing close enough that Elena could feel his warmth beside her. Their working relationship had evolved over the past months from cautious allies to something deeper, built on late nights analyzing data, shared concerns, and a growing trust that felt increasingly rare. It's all deliberate, Elena replied. Even their appearance, unfamiliar enough to disarm us, alien enough to impress. Classic psychological manipulation. The main screen showed the Cygnus ambassador addressing the United Earth Council. His melodic voice translated through devices the aliens had provided. We come as friends to share our knowledge. Your civilization stands at a crucial threshold. We wish only to help you cross it safely. Elena's translation algorithm highlighted subtle discrepancies between the ambassador's actual speech and what the translation devices rendered. Words about assessment became cooperation. Terms that might translate as subjects became partners. They're already lying, she muttered, making notes. The translation devices are programmed to sanitize their actual language. Jackson nodded grimly. Meanwhile, they've deployed observation satellites around our military installations. Admiral Chen's team confirmed they're scanning our defense systems. Admiral Helena Chen had become their most important ally after reviewing their evidence. As head of United Earth Fleet Intelligence, She provided them the resources and protection to continue their investigation away from compromised officials. Dr. Reyes, Commander. The Admiral herself entered the room, her crisp uniform and stern expression, a contrast to the chaos of screens and data surrounding them. The technology exchange begins today. I need your assessment immediately. Elena pulled up the schematics the Cygnus had offered. Advanced propulsion systems, medical technology, and energy production methods that promise to solve Earth's resource problems. It's manipulated, she explained, highlighting specific areas. These systems appear revolutionary, but I've found deliberate flaws in the designs. If implemented as provided, our existing technologies would actually regress, becoming dependent on Cygnus components. They're creating technological addiction, Jackson added. Give us impressive but flawed technology, make us dependent on their assistance, then gradually take control of our infrastructure. Admiral Chen studied the evidence, her expression hardening. The Council won't believe this. The Cygnus gifts are too tempting, and several key officials are already advocating for full integration of alien technology. We need more concrete proof, Elena said, something even the most enthusiastic collaboration advocates can't ignore. You'll have your chance tonight, Chen replied. The diplomatic reception at New Geneva. Both of you will attend as my security attachés. Get me something I can use. That evening, Elena found herself in an elegant gown, a concealed recording device disguised as jewelry at her throat. Jackson, handsome in his dress uniform, stayed close as they navigated the crowded ballroom where Earth's elite mingled with the Cygnus delegation. You clean up nicely, Commander, she whispered as they moved through the crowd, maintaining their cover. You sound surprised. Doctor. His hand rested lightly on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through her. Just noting that combat boots and tactical gear aren't your only strengths. She smiled, then quickly refocused as they approached a group including the Cygnus ambassador. Throughout the evening, they gathered snippets of conversation, noting discrepancies between different Cygnus representatives' statements. The real breakthrough came during a momentary power fluctuation that caused the aliens' translation devices to reset. In that brief window, Elena heard the ambassador speaking to his aide, their actual language filtering through before the translation system reactivated. Preparations proceed as scheduled. Earth's resistance capacity falling within acceptable parameters for harvest initiation. Elena's blood went cold. She caught Jackson's eye across the room, a silent confirmation that he'd heard it too. They had their proof. Later that night, in Elena's quarters at the secure facility, they reviewed their recordings. Harvest initiation, Jackson repeated, pacing the small room. Not cultural exchange or technological assistance, harvest. Elena nodded, trying to maintain scientific objectivity despite her growing fear. The pattern matches exactly what happened to the Rondu and the others. They're not here to help us advance. They're preparing us for resource extraction. Jackson stopped pacing, looking at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. We're running out of time, Elena. It was the first time he'd used her first name. The formality between them had gradually dissolved over months of working side by side, but something in his tone now crossed the remaining distance. I know, she replied softly. He moved closer, sitting beside her on the edge of the desk. If we're wrong, we risk destroying humanity's greatest opportunity. If we're right and we fail to convince the Council, we risk destroying humanity itself, she finished. The weight of that responsibility hung between them. Without conscious thought, Elena reached for his hand, his fingers intertwined with hers, warm and steady. Silent resistance. The underground facility 30 miles outside of what remained of Chicago had once been a Cold War relic, designed to house government continuity operations in case of nuclear attack. Now, 3 weeks after the Cygnus Alliance had formalized their presence on Earth, it served as the central hub for humanity's covert resistance. Elena sat beside Jackson in the crowded briefing room as Admiral Chen presented their evidence to the assembled group military officers who had escaped the Cygnus security cooperation purges, scientists whose research facilities had been repurposed, and government officials who had questioned the increasingly aggressive Cygnus presence. The United Earth Council has effectively surrendered our Sovereignty, Chen stated, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. 70% of our global defense systems now operate on Cygnus integrated technology. Those that refused integration have been systematically disabled through what they call compatibility adjustments. Murmurs rippled through the room as Chen displayed images of military bases worldwide where Cygnus security consultants had established permanent presence. Our attempt to present evidence to the council last week was unsuccessful, Chen continued, nodding to Elena and Jackson. Dr. Reyes and Commander Mercer discovered that several key council members had been compromised. Compromised how? Asked General Rivera, one of the few Joint Chiefs who had escaped the recent restructuring. Elena stood, taking over the presentation. We believe through a combination of technology and biochemical influence. Council members who have had direct contact with Cygnus representatives show altered decision-making patterns and unprecedented compliance with Cygnus directives. Mind control? Someone asked skeptically. More subtle, Jackson interjected. Think of it as amplified suggestibility combined with fear suppression. They don't control minds. They just make certain choices seem more rational than they actually are. A slender Japanese man in his 60s stood from the back of the room. This aligns with my team's findings. Dr. Kato Tanaka, former head of quantum communications at the Tokyo Institute, approached the front. We've detected nanoscale technological signatures in the bloodstreams of officials who have undergone Cygnus medical examinations. These particles appear to cluster near the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. So they're drugging our leaders with robots, General Rivera summarized bluntly. And we're supposed to fight this how exactly? They've got ships in orbit that could probably turn the planet to glass if they wanted. That's just it, Elena said. They don't want to destroy Earth, they want to harvest it. And that requires infrastructure, time, and relative cooperation. Which gives us our only advantage, Jackson added. They think they've won already. Their pattern with other civilizations shows they grow complacent once control systems are in place. Chen nodded, which brings us to Operation Silence. The lights dimmed as she activated a holographic display showing a multi-phase plan that made several people in the room shift uncomfortably. We appear to surrender, Chen explained. Completely and convincingly. We deactivate our remaining independent systems, reduce technological resistance, and seemingly accept Cygnus dominance while actually building an entirely separate, undetectable defense capability. You want us to play dumb, Rivera said incredulously. While they strip mine our planet, we want us to play smart, countered Dr. Tanaka. My team has developed quantum communication technology that operates on principles the Cygnus cannot detect because it exists, partially outside conventional space-time, and we have something else, Elena added, nodding to Chen. Someone who can help us understand exactly what we're fighting. At Chen's signal, a side door opened, and a figure entered that caused several military officers to reach instinctively for weapons that had been checked at the door. The visitor stood slightly taller than an average human, with limbs that moved with unusual grace, but most striking was her skin, a pale lavender hue that seemed to shift subtly with her movements. This is Lyra, Elena introduced, stepping protectively beside the newcomer. She defected from the Cygnus fleet 8 days ago, risking everything to warn us about what's really happening. You brought one of them here? Rivera demanded. Into our last secure facility? I am not Cygnus, Lyra spoke, her voice melodic but with subtle differences from the Cygnus translators. My people, the Valori, were among the first worlds they conquered 300 of your years ago. I serve as what they call a cultural integration specialist. I help prepare worlds for harvest. And why should we trust you? Rivera pressed. Because I have witnessed 37 civilizations fall to the same pattern, Lyra replied, her large eyes scanning the room. Because I can no longer participate in this cycle of destruction. And because I have information that could help Earth become the first world to successfully resist Cygnus domination. Over the next hour, Lyra explained the truth behind the Cygnus Alliance. Not a civilization, but a parasitic collective that moved from system to system, establishing control through technological dependence before extracting all usable resources and moving on, leaving devastated planets behind. Their process has 3 phases, she explained. bringing up images of worlds Elena recognized from Jackson's classified files. First, infiltration through seemingly beneficial contact. Second, integration of control systems disguised as technological advancement. Third, extraction of all valuable resources, including biological specimens. How many species have they done this to? Dr. Tanaka asked. 42 known successful harvests, Lyra answered. Each conquered species is studied for useful genetic traits, then either repurposed as specialized labor or processed as biological resources. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't facing occupation. It was facing extinction or enslavement. You mentioned we could be the first to successfully resist, Jackson said, breaking the silence. Why us? What's different about Earth? Lyra's expression shifted to something Elena had learned to recognize as a smile. Two things. First, your technological development took an unusual path. You advanced your information systems before your energy technology. Most species do the opposite, which makes the Cygnus control methodology more effective. And second, Chen prompted. You have me, Lyra said simply. No Cygnus operation has ever experienced internal sabotage from someone with my level of access. I can help you understand their weaknesses in ways no previous civilization could. What exactly are those weaknesses? Rivera asked, skepticism giving way to strategic interest. Their ships rely on quantum-locked communication. Their weapon systems have specific harmonic vulnerabilities. And most importantly, Lyra paused, they are absolutely convinced of their superiority. They do not believe humans capable of meaningful resistance once integration has begun. Then we give them exactly what they expect, Chen concluded. Apparent regression, technological submission, while we build something they won't see coming. Operation Silence. Elena nodded. We go dark, but we don't go quiet. Later that night, in the small quarters they'd been assigned, Elena and Jackson reviewed the detailed plans that had emerged from the day's revelations. Operation Silence would require a convincing global performance of technological decline, while secretly developing advanced countermeasures based on Lyra's insights. Do you think it can work? Elena asked, studying the schematics for quantum-shielded weapons that Dr. Tanaka's team had begun developing. I think it has to, Jackson replied, sitting beside her on the narrow bed. And I think having Lyra changes everything. The Cygnus would never expect one of their own to turn against them. Elena leaned against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. She's taking an enormous risk. If they discover her defection, they won't, Jackson assured her, though they both knew such promises were beyond anyone's power to keep. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start dismantling civilization as we know it. Elena turned to face him, her expression serious. Jackson, if this goes wrong, if we fail... He silenced her with a gentle kiss. Then we fail together, fighting for something that matters. I can think of worse ways to go. As Elena drifted toward sleep in Jackson's arms, her mind replayed Lyra's words from a private conversation after the main briefing. Your species possesses something the Cygnus cannot understand. The capacity to value things beyond efficiency and resource acquisition. That emotional core they dismiss as primitive may be your greatest weapon. Looking at Jackson's face, peaceful in sleep despite the weight of responsibility he carried, Elena understood exactly what Lyra meant. Some things were worth any risk to protect. Over the next months, human civilization appeared to crumble under Cygnus influence. Power grids became unreliable. Communication systems degraded. Military capabilities seemed to regress as equipment malfunctioned and wasn't repaired. The Cygnus representatives expressed concern while accelerating their integration timeline, establishing processing facilities at key resource points globally.